I just don't want to associate with people who suck. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Parallel Stories podcast. Today is the 5th episode. High five. We did it. 5th episode. Yes. In honor of today's episode, I thought I would mimic Taylor Swift's infamous track 5s and make this a very sad, depressing episode. JK, I don't want to do that. I feel like the last one was depressing enough, or at least all the ones before this, with me being like sad in general. After I got back from visiting my mom, I definitely was like so back into the dumps of depression and sadness, and it's cold here. It's cold and it's dark outside and fucking daylight savings and all that shit. Did I even cover that in the last episode? I have no idea. I don't remember. I have the memory of a goldfish because I'm Gen Z who is constantly scrolling on Instagram. And I'm glad I deleted TikTok a long time ago because apparently it's actually going to get banned in the US in like 6 weeks or something. I didn't actually read the news articles. I just read the headline because, again, Gen Z, saying this as someone who has a journalism minor from college and was on the Sioux newspaper for like 3 years in college. But God, when it comes to freedom of expression versus national security, the U.S. and the Supreme Court, even though they haven't ruled on anything yet, but like the U.S. will always prioritize national security because TikTok is a breach of national security and data security for Americans and all the bullshit propaganda that they're spewing. But it's so funny because I was thinking of like privacy laws. We should have some sort of like privacy amendment in the Constitution to like protect against the bullshit of like Clarence Thomas and the Republicans and conservatives on the Supreme Court who are saying like, oh, well, really it was just Clarence who was like, we should reconsider gay marriage and like gay sex and like those rulings. And he conveniently left out the interracial marriage ruling because he's in an interracial marriage. We should revisit those because now like privacy is over because Roe v. Wade got overturned, and I don't think there will ever be like an amendment in the national constitution for privacy because Patriot Act. The U.S. does not want to emphasize privacy. Then again, other amendments have had restrictions. I mean, in the 13th Amendment, there were the alternative of like slavery is illegal except when you're incarcerated. That's baked into the language of the amendment itself. So I don't know. Anyways, enough with the legal talk. You guys are not here for that. I am not Elle Woods, Reese Witherspoon. This is not Legally Blonde, and certainly not Legally Blonde the musical. I'm not feeling that slay right now. Certainly not looking that slay. Not in a very slay mood. But I do have some life updates, so that's good. First, I want to cover some stuff I forgot to say in the last episode from when I was fired, and really this is like key stuff that makes it more like shady and sketchy and really just wrong that I got fired in the first place, and is really a reflection of how me getting fired was not because of my wrongdoing but because of other stuff going on. Even though my mom really likes to fixate on the fact that I kept going back to the front desk even though they told me not to. She really likes fixating on that, and she was like, Ryder, can you just admit that? And I'm like, yeah, I can admit that, but also employers should not be dictators and they should not feel like they have the power to ground me as someone who is a grown adult, like, and just push the panic button on me and rein me in. I should not rehash the old drama, but so some things I forgot to mention. First, when my boss was firing me, I love that clip. My mom showed that clip that I put on Instagram to one of her friends, and they were laughing a lot of like the pulling out the tissues. So iconic and so fucking stupid. Oh my God. But when my boss was firing me, she said I could still use her as a reference, which if I had actually committed sexual harassment as I was fired for violating that employee policy, why would you let me use you as a reference? Why would you refer me to anything good or make any good comments about me? Because like sexual harassment is really, really bad and immoral and wrong. So like, why would you say anything nice about me? So I feel like that proves that I did not actually commit that. I mean, I know I did not. My coworkers know that I did not do that. But a further reflection of how this was not because of my wrongdoing. Next, the two front desk girls who they did not get fired, even though we all equally partook in the grand conversations that led to all of this drama and bullshit, they actually got pulled in again like a few weeks after I was fired, or maybe like a month after I was fired. They got pulled in again for inappropriate behavior and like talking about inappropriate subjects. If you're just listening to this, I'm using air quotes because I don't think that stuff is inappropriate. Once again, the assistant director told me that personal experiences about menstruation was inappropriate. And again, this is a like medical place where they give out condoms and lube to anyone who wants it, and a place where like 99% of the staff are women, and you're going to say that talking about menstruation is inappropriate. Like, that is just absolutely ridiculous. So they got pulled in again. So if upper management thought that they could fix the quote unquote like appropriateness crisis by just firing me, no, they could not. After the second time I got pulled in, where I gained some more courage to more actively defend myself and have more uncomfortable conversations about the unfairness of like this one guy being able to be out and about in the community, but they are restricting me to my like dark, depressing, windowless office. We ended the conversation on a good note. I tried to do that as much as I could, and the manager said, "We're so happy to have you. You're such a wealth of knowledge." And then a week later, I was fired. So make that make sense. We're so happy to have you. You're such a wealth of knowledge. Also, you're fired. That just does not make any sense. But they were right. I was a wealth of knowledge, and they do not have that anymore because they fired me. So now they just don't know anything about anything. And this last thing isn't about me getting fired, but it was like a moment for me of like realization and clarity about like the honestly like corruption of this establishment, and how like things were not good like at all, and they were not actually helping the community, and at least as much as they should be doing. So there was a woman who came in one day. This was still while I was at the front, and I was organizing files at the time, putting files away. And she came in, and she was pretty visibly distraught. I mean, she was trying her best to maintain her composure, and she did a good job at that, but she was distraught. And she came in, I think if I remember correctly, she explained to the receptionist that she was in an accident, she lost her job, she lost her health insurance, and she is looking to establish care at a place that, I don't think she said this part, but obviously this is my understanding of it, establish care at a place where she could get medical assistance for a much cheaper cost than at other facilities because of her lack of insurance. And the receptionist basically had to explain to her that we could not help her, and we could not do anything for her and fulfill any medical services she might need. And the woman was quite confused at that, and it seemed like she was getting irritated and angry, but kept that to herself. But I honestly understand her irritation and anger. This was not a Karen moment. This was like she was genuinely looking for a place to help her, and this place could not do that for her at all. And so she left, and basically to sum up this establishment, if you are not a child, are not someone seeking a flu shot, and are not someone seeking STI testing, then you're shit out of luck. And this place could not do anything for you. It was weird because I remember looking at the website being like, oh, there are so many services. No, they're not. I think the woman had said that she had been there like a few years before and she was able to get some stuff, but I think if I remember correctly, the receptionist told her like, we don't have a doctor anymore. I think at that place there were only nurses, and not even nurse practitioners, but just nurses. So what they could do medically was really restricted. And so they were always talking about like flu shots. We're going out in the community and we're giving flu shots. And at the time I was like, oh, that's cool. But now I'm like, that's it? That's your like holy grail thing you're doing for the community? You're giving out flu shots? Like, flu shots are important, but that's not the end all be all for medical treatment and care. And like, there's other places they could also get flu shots. Like, this community is like kind of small, but it's not that small. There are places they could go to. There are like pharmacies and stuff. So I was like, flu shots? That's what you're doing with your time? You're out for a few hours because you're like giving flu shots? It's just, it was just really baffling to me. I mean, there was a place in a much smaller town that I served in the job before I had this job that fired me, and they were able to get a chiropractor. And I know that chiropractic is like kind of a pseudoscience, but I know like for some people it helps them. So, but like again, I just want to say like I think I've heard it's like a pseudoscience. Don't quote me on anything, but they were able to get that, and they wanted to do that because they wanted to help people manage their pain so that they wouldn't have to turn to opioids, and so that they could help tamper down the opioid crisis by offering this other method of managing their pain. Because it's really unfortunate that so many people get addicted to opioids simply because they want to manage their pain, and then suddenly they're addicted. And again, just read a headline about this one company is paying like I think like $600 million out because of their role in the opioid crisis. So they were able to do that, and they were extremely small town, basically no medical services in the area, like very rural. But this other place that's much more urban and much less small doesn't even have that. So it was just a sad place to work. Not just a bad place to work like that one front desk girl told me, but like a sad place to work with realizing like there really isn't that much stuff they're doing for the community, and they wanted to do more, but they're doing it in such a wrong way, like bastardizing this whole project that I talked about that this other county was doing, and then like plagiarizing their application, and then like even with that, like going back on the data company they were using because they didn't like the data, they thought it wasn't accurate to like their student body. And like I understand people have qualms with data, but in my personal opinion, it's the closest thing we have to the truth. So, and the fact that they wouldn't even keep going with it, like give it another year and see what would happen, it's like even when they try to do something, they're doing it in the completely wrong way, and they're cutting corners. That's what it is. They're cutting corners, and they're doing things improperly, and I really just can't imagine that, like having so much funding from the community and from the state and not doing things the right way with it. I think that really baffles me, and it's really sad to see. And I remember the receptionist telling me when that woman left who was trying to seek or establish care for medical services, the front desk girl, she told me like, we haven't had these services for a long time, and like this place isn't going to be able to keep doing that. Like someone's going to come for us at some point. I don't know if she meant like the board or like whatever, but like someone's gonna find out and they're gonna be upset about that, and they're gonna like bring down the hammer. And those are my words trying to summarize this interaction, but they're gonna bring down the hammer in some way. And so now I'm glad I'm really out, and soon I'll be moving to a different state because I just don't want to associate with people who suck. I don't want to associate with people who just overlook things, cut corners, and just suck. Like, I don't want to associate people, like, especially upper management, who aren't running things properly. Like, that just makes no sense to me. So that is the end of that story. If more things come up or if more tea is dished, I will happily give updates. I feel like I can never truly run away from my ghosts. Even when I go across the country, they might find a way back to me. But for now, that's the end of that. On the bright side, and on the very opposite side, I got a new job. So that's really great. I interviewed for this one place. It's kind of like social work. I honestly don't really enjoy it, but I need something in the meantime to make money before I move, and this will be enough. But the day after I interviewed, I got a text from the talent recruiter that they're ready to make an offer. And then that was on a Tuesday. And then Friday is when I actually got the offer. Yesterday is when I actually got the offer, because the exec team was taking a long time. And again, I was like, they just want to hire someone, and the higher ups are just like making barriers and like keeping things from like moving along. And like, I don't know any of that execs. I don't know the internal relationships, but that's the first thing that came to mind, is that these execs were just like keeping things slow, and like the system was really slow. But whatever, I got a job, and then I also interviewed to be a private one-on-one tutor for this one like company, and I got that. I mean, it wasn't much of an interview. I think I was very much giving like corporate 9-to-5 full-time job interview energy, and then I started to calm down because I mean, I knew it from the first point, like it wasn't going to be super formal like that. I didn't even wear a button-down shirt like I usually do in interviews just to make the best first impression. I just wore a plain color t-shirt like this. But I did get that, and that one paid $18 to $22 an hour. And I really had to convince this guy to give me 21, not even 22, 21, because he wanted to offer me 20. And I was like, I'm a college graduate. You agree that I could provide services beyond high school and into the secondary, or I think high school is secondary, but like post-secondary level by doing like time management and assignment management. And so he pushed it up to $21. So that's going to be a side gig. I want to like hustle a little bit for those months in the spring before I finally move. I just want to have a good foot with the money because I never know what will happen. I have my savings, but I want to preserve that as much as possible because it's probably the only way I'm ever going to be able to afford a house in the future, even like a tiny home and a plot of land. So like, I just want to be really careful with that. I've saved like my entire life, like every like COVID grant, like everything I've like put away into my savings, and I don't want that to just like vanish because I'm not making other income. I want to be on top of that. I really want to be on top of things financially. I feel like that character trait is a bit of a detriment because I get really anxious and fixated on it. I have this weird fixation with numbers. I'm like that guy from Lost, except not really, because I'm not that obsessed with them, and they definitely have not impacted me in a mystical, mysterious, lost on an island with like weird smog way. And I actually have never watched that show. I just watched Mike's Mike recap of the first season, which was really good. But I kind of got the impression that the show would just like get worse from there. So I was like, I'm not going to watch the other recaps. But I remember like in high school when I tried to get over using like sleeping with the TV on and using a nightlight, I would crack my door to have the hall light come in. And I would want my cracked door to only be open so much. And the number I assigned to that value was 3. And I didn't measure it. I didn't take like a ruler and measure like that diagonal angle of the door being cracked. I just randomly thought like, this is 3. And the amount of what? I don't know. But the amount of this is 3 in the amount of the door being cracked. Very weird in my opinion, but I kind of get fixated on numbers and I try not to. I'm not even a math guy. In fact, the guy who hired me for the tutoring gig, he said like they usually reserve the 22 for like math and science people, which of course the fucking math and science people get the highest fucking amount, of course, as they always do. Me being in psychology and being upset about that with like the money making potential. But I did secure that, so I'm going to be getting some income, which is really good. And then when I do make the move, my mom is trying to help me find a gig, which like she's being fine, and she called me today, and I realized the reason I'm being so like upset about it is because I just don't want to work. I kind of like have a very negative impression of working right now because I was fired and because of other things I'm going to go over. Like the main theme of this episode is going to be expectations for being in my 20s that have not been met, and kind of like media representations and things like that, and just like the sad reality of like feeling lost and like kind of taking it back to the first episode of like drifting off to somewhere as a 20-something. But she's trying, and we're really getting at like being a substitute teacher, except I don't want to do that. I want to be in education. And I mean, if I get into the specific schools that they put more funding for substitute teachers, and I can make like $225 a day, which is honestly really, really good. But if I get into the lowest, like regular school, and then that's only like $110 a day, which is so much not worth it. I also can't imagine being a sub, especially for high schoolers, because I mean, I'm only 6 years older than a high school senior, or I am 6 years older than a high school senior, which should seem like a lot, but I kind of feel a little stunted. Maybe that was COVID's fault for like taking over my freshman year of college, and then I kind of have like a baby face. Like everyone in my life agrees that I look younger than I actually am. I'm also 5'6", so that also doesn't really help. I don't think I look like a man or like a grown-up. I think I look younger. So like being with like older high schoolers kind of seems strange to me. I'm like, I don't feel like I'm old enough compared to them to like be a teacher for them, even if it's a substitute teacher. So middle school and high school, or middle school and elementary school might be better, except for the fact that middle schoolers suck and elementary schoolers can be gross and like, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm rambunctious. So I don't know. We'll have to see. Plus I have to get certified, and that costs a bit of money, but my mom has this friend who lives there who retired from being a teacher, or actually a principal, and she was in the teaching industry for like all of her adult life. So she could definitely be a big help. But the whole idea just kind of turns me off just because I don't really want to really work, or like the idea of finding like a job that I'm gonna like be steady at, like, okay, this is my job and this is the thing I want to like be with for a long time. It just makes me sad because I'm really put off by like job hunting and jobs and careers in general. I was looking at this one that would hire at entry level, but start to like I think 65K a year, and that's like a marketing specialist, like social media, things like that, which is good pay. But there was this one bullet on it, this one bullet point that said you get reimbursement for hanging out with your coworkers outside of work, which immediately was a turnoff for me, just because it was this broader reflection of like the work culture, and like we need to improve the work culture, and blah, 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 work culture is an issue, and we need our employees to like each other, they need to work well with each other, blah, blah, blah. I mean, like, it was like I think I touched on this in the last episode of like I think work culture is so weird, and like hiring consultation companies to fix your work culture, I'm like, first of all, when you have people doing anything, it's going to be messy and there's going to be drama because people suck and people are dramatic and they have different ways of doing things. So that's automatically gonna make things complicated. And when you have a hierarchy of like people on the higher ups making decisions that people on the bottom don't agree with, that's also gonna create drama, and rightfully so. So there's just so many things that can go wrong, and I don't really have a solution for work culture. I think the solution is this is your job, and just work together as best as you can, and like then go home and don't think about work. And I don't know, maybe the idea of not taking it too seriously is what could fix work culture if everyone just like chilled out about it. I don't know, but I thought that was really weird. I was looking at Glassdoor on the reviews for that company, and someone actually had a positive thing to say about that perk. And apparently there's like an in-house chef you can get meals from, so that's cool. But I was thinking of like, oh, like maybe you could conspire with your coworkers and be like, okay, we're going to hang out, but we're going to make a pact. We're not going to talk about work. We're only going to do this for the money. And then I realized, wait a minute, this might not be reimbursement for your time. This might be reimbursement for things that you buy when you're hanging out. Because like to leave your house, it costs fucking money. So like if you're getting drinks, if you're getting dinner, if you're going to a club, like anything that costs money, you would submit like a receipt and you would get reimbursement for that and not your time. And I think that turns me off the most, because like when I go out, I'm trying to do it in the cheapest way possible. Again, like we just touched on, I'm very fixated about money. I'm trying to mind my finances. So I will just like not spend anything. I don't drink, and I'm really glad I don't drink because alcohol is so expensive when you buy it out. Like I think the upcharge is crazy. So when I go out to the karaoke bar I like to go to, which I haven't gone to in the last few weeks because I haven't like felt like it, but there's no cover charge. So I go there, I sit down. Well, first I write my name on the list to sing. I sit down, I wait my turn, I sing. Maybe I do another song. One night I did 3 songs because there weren't that many people there. And then I leave, and they actually give you popcorn at this place. They give you popcorn for free, and there's also like free water, obviously. So like I just don't pay them anything, and I just enjoy myself by myself because I don't have any friends right now, at least where I'm physically located at. But that whole thing, I was just kind of like, God, this stupid fucking work culture, and like culture, and just like, calm down. I don't want to be friends with my coworkers. I just want to work with them, and that's it. And it was weird because the job, apparently you have unlimited PTO, which as we all know is a scam, because if you have unlimited PTO, what's stopping you from taking like a day off every week and having like a 4-day work week every week? What's stopping you from doing that? They'll reject it. That's what's stopping you. They said like they encourage you to take time off. They encourage you to take like around 3 weeks off, which I feel like it's weird that they specified the amount. I think that was really showing that like there's not unlimited PTO. It's 3 weeks of PTO. That's all we're going to approve for you as an employee requesting your paid time off. And then Oh God, what else? My mind is going a blank. No, no, no. They had and then they were just like generally saying in the job description of like we encourage you to have a work-life balance, but also you're probably gonna have to work some holidays, like a couple holidays per year. And I'm like, okay, so you're kind of going back and forth with what you want here, but the pay was good. And what I told my mom was like, I can't stay in this industry because of like this social work and this nonprofit because I can't like stagnate at 45K a year. This job I got, it's 44,750, and that's only because of a $750 sign-on bonus, which in my mind, a sign-on bonus is supposed to be you just got hired, you get the full amount. Apparently, they applied it to your yearly salary. I told them I was looking for 45, and then the talent recruiter, I said, oh, I was hoping for 45, and he said, okay, I can check back with the exact team. But I was like, you know what, never mind, I'll just take the 44,750 because I didn't want everything to be like drawn out again. I was like, whatever, I'm gonna leave it anyways. Like, I'll just take it. So, like I can't stagnate at that, like I can't like temper off, I can't hit that ceiling, and it sucks. I'm really thinking of like, did I choose the wrong major? Like I really did like psychology, maybe communications would have been better, but even then it might still be hard finding a job. And like, so I'm just like, god damn it, I'm like the pay in America is so bad. Like I think this is the worst wealth inequality we've ever seen in the history of this country. I think I once saw something that the wealth inequality we have now is worse than when like people were like guillotining like the kings and queens in France or something, like during the French Revolution, during all that money stuff. I don't know if that's true at all. Again, don't quote me on that fact, but the wealth inequality is really bad. And like, I don't even want to bring up Trump, but like with the idea of like trickle down economics maybe coming back as if it ever fucking went away, I just don't have high hopes. I mean, many people voted for him because they were sick of the economy and they wanted to get better. And like, I hope the economy gets better. I also don't hope that marginalized people keep losing rights. So I just don't know. I guess we'll see. But the other blockade that my mom mentioned that I knew was like the fact that I don't have a master's and I might need to get one to get more money. But like, I'm completely uninterested in getting a master's. I was a student through and through up until the point that I graduated, in which I was like, I don't want to be a student anymore. School is annoying. Assignments are annoying. And even though I know I don't have to try as hard with the master's and the grades don't matter, and the only thing that matters is that I get the piece of paper, I still have like this like moral opposition to like speed running a master's degree and not really learning anything. I mean, at the end of the day, to get more money, I'll do it. Like, it's not like I'm killing someone. Like, me treating it as like a moral issue is kind of ridiculous, especially when I'm going to have to pay money for it. That's the other thing. I have to buy a master's degree. It would be at least like $30,000, $40,000, money that I do not have and don't want to spend on it. And like, would that really guarantee more money in the long run if I only get like if I get a $10,000 raise, I could pay that off in like 4 years, but like 4 years, that's a long time. So like, I just like, there's so many issues with it. I also don't like the idea that like someone with a master's degree can get paid more than someone with the years of experience, even if that person with a master's had no experience, just because they have that piece of paper. I think a master's is too highly valued in like the corporate world, especially the nonprofit world. Like the job I worked at 2 jobs ago, the one I was at for the longest, where like you don't get any more money based off experience, and that was for salary equity. But like, just have a system where if you can verify your experience and you get paid more. No, the only way to get paid more would be to get a promotion, which there was barely any of because it's a nonprofit, so the corporate ladder isn't very high. There's no like upward more mobility, and you only get $1 more per hour. I'm gonna say that again, and I'm gonna look straight into the camera. Oh, do you like the new glasses? I just got them. $1 per hour. I did the math. I did the fucking math because I was fed up. This place also had a tuition reimbursement program, but only for certain degrees that apply to your job. And that was, I think, $5,000 a year. So I did the math. From where I got my bachelor's from, a master's would be around like 43, probably closer to $45,000 at this point, because degrees keep going up in price and college costs. So that minus, if I did like 2 to 3 years of the master's. I mean, doing it in 3 years would be better because I could like do like the 5,000 3 times instead of 2 times, so $15,000 towards it instead of $10,000. But I don't want to use that much to get a master's degree. I mean, 3 years in the grand scheme of your life doesn't seem that long, but when you're in the moment, that seems like a really long time. So for a $1 per hour increase in salary, which is equivalent to about like $2,500 per year, that's it. Basically, the cost of the degree minus the reimbursement you get divided by blah, 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 it would take around 11 to 12 years to pay off that degree. If I remember the math correctly, 11 to 12 years to pay off that master's degree based on your salary. And I think that was including the deduction of the tuition reimbursement. 11 to 12 years to pay off your master's at this place. I mean, this place was honestly fucking cuckoo bananas crazy with their payment system and their salary equity. Me as a man saying that, their salary equity, because that is just insane. So I don't want to top off at $45K a year, but also a master's might not get me that much more. So I don't know. It seems like there's more money to make in like social media and copywriting, so I could start going for that. But I mean, working on my own and being a successful author, that at the end of the day is what I want. But the problem is, like, have fun getting that. So anyways, something else I wanted to touch on was the daycare center job. I forgot to mention in the previous episode, the corporate ladder has no rungs. It's supposed to be a timeline of all the jobs I've ever had, but I forgot that one. I even included Uber Eats, which was a fucking gig job. I didn't actually have a boss. The daycare center job I forgot to include, even though I had my notes. I just forgot to put it on my notes. That one had gossip in it, specifically one of the women who worked at the front. I was warned by the coworker who I worked with a lot, because I worked with the 5-year-olds mostly. She said that woman, we'll call her like Laura. Laura listens. This episode is brought to you by Laura Listens. That's a great podcast title. Laura, like, she eavesdrops and she listens, and she did, because I got that as a summer job. I did specifically advertise it that way, but I think they knew like that's what I was going to do. But Laura overheard that. I get brought into the office of the director to talk about one thing, but she also asked me about that, and I said, yes, I will be leaving at this date. So Laura did, in fact, listen. Let's see. Daycare center jobs don't get paid enough. The food wasn't that good. There was the lunch schedule was bi-weekly, and there was one day that the kids did not like and no one liked, where it was turkey and it was ham and Swiss on wheat bread. Imagine giving 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds wheat bread. And then there were like packets of mustard and mayo, but they didn't know how to open that shit, so we had to open it for them. It was bad. Other days it was better, like chicken fingers. They had chicken noodle soup one time, which the kids didn't really like, but I really liked it. You got to eat the lunch as an employee there. You got to eat what the kids were having, which they had like a kitchen. It was actual food. It wasn't like garbage food, but that ham and Swiss day, the kids did not like that. And I remember the employees who had a kid who was in there, even with the employee discount, she said, I paid too much for my kid to be eating that sandwich. So that was funny. But I think I just heard a clink. I think that was something. I don't have anything in the sink though. I just be hearing noises in my apartment. But yeah, that job, I guess there isn't that much to say about the job. It was, the hours sucked. The 1 hour lunch breaks in theory were good. But again, like I said, I think unpaid lunch breaks are a scam because you're just there for longer. So, and the break room sucked. There were only 2 like adult bathrooms, and it was just not a good place to work. And I'm glad I don't to work there. I bonded with this one girl. She was really funny. But it was not good. And I'm glad I wasn't there for very long. It was 15 an hour, which was the most I'd ever gotten from a job at that point. So that was good. But no, I do not recommend working in daycare, as everyone knows. But it's bad. And then the last thing I want to get into before I get into the bulk of this episode, or the last half hour. The last episode was so long, an hour and a half. I really want to make sure this is at most an hour. But I watched this one movie. It was free on YouTube Movies. I watched it a couple of months ago. And it kind of like inspired me. It gave me a little bit of inspiration. I thought the movie was going to be bad because it was a TV movie, but it was I actually really liked it. It was based off like a memoir. It was based off a true story, and it's called The Secret Sex Life of a Single Mom. And it's about a mom who discovers her husband is cheating, obviously, and she was already upset with the marriage because he's always gone at work, obviously, and like flying over the country, obviously. And so she divorces him. She hooks up with this one guy, her acupuncturist, and they were like kind of exclusive, but then she figures out that her side piece has a side piece. And so they break up, and then she gets an email. She makes like a dating profile, and she gets an email from someone who calls himself the Duke. And this movie has BDSM themes, and I am into BDSM in theory. I haven't done anything. Father, I know you watch this. Click away. I'm kidding. I'm not going to go into the details, but I think calling yourself the Duke is like so cringy as someone who's like a dom or like an alpha male, as he described himself, and he likes working with alpha females. Then I'm like, what if you hook up with someone who's non-binary? But he called himself the Duke, which I think is so ridiculous. Whatever happened to just like sir? Why am I calling you the Duke? Anyways, he wasn't even that attractive. He was kind of attractive. He was rich, which I feel like is the classic like 50 Shades of Grey trope that the dom is going to be like super hot and super rich, which is not what actually happens in real life. I don't know. Once again, very limited sexual experiences. Refer to episode 3, the Hopeless Romantic Support Group. But she starts learning about him. She dates this other guy who I think they refer to as a 23-year-old testosterone junkie who like, yeah, he was super hot. I would love to date a guy like that. But then it kind of ends badly because they're on this one date and she's with the 23-year-old. She has 2 kids, by the way, but she's with the 23-year-old, and he said he would like to meet her kids, and she basically has to tell him that like she was just wanting this to be casual, but he actually wanted something more. Even though he was the younger one, he's the one who wanted the relationship to be something more. So that didn't end that well. And then she meets the Duke in person after only having like phone sex, and they hook up and she's liking it. So he's explaining the rules because every BDSM relationship has to have a contract and rules. I'm kidding. It wasn't as bad as 50 Shades of Grey, but he is explaining like, if you disobey me, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, well, what if I disobey you? And he says, if you disobey me 3 times, and then he pulls out a dog collar with a leash on it. And he says, I will put this on you and make you walk around the neighborhood while I'm holding it. I will walk you around the neighborhood like a dog. I mean, she wouldn't be crawling or like walking like a dog. She'd be standing up. But he will walk her around the neighborhood for everyone to see. And you just gotta laugh because this is based off a true story. I wonder if that part was actually true, because that is just crazy. I cannot imagine, even if like a guy I find is so hot and like so dumb in like such a sexy way, I cannot imagine like taking that seriously. Like that is just ridiculous. So, the idea of a BDSM relationship does intrigue me. I would say I'm like verse in my mind. I think it would be more exciting and entertaining to like be verse instead of just doing like dom sub, master slave, whatever. I would never do master slave. I am way too like radically independent to do that. I also don't want to tell someone what to do with like their every waking moment. That's too much work. I have things to do. I have Instagram reels to watch and a podcast to film. Thank you very much. But I think dom sub is interesting. I think it's just the idea. It's like exciting, you know. Like I think straight people are very much vanilla, and like 50 Shades of Grey ignited something extra in them. But even then, they're still vanilla. Like I watched Trixie and Katya recap The Merry Gentleman on Netflix, and were the guys hot? Yeah, but they were rightfully to critique the movie because it. Like the guys like never take their pants off to even show their underwear. They just take their shirts off, and these like small town middle-aged moms are like going bananas over it. And like, what? Like they're just, have y'all never seen a shirtless guy? Have y'all never gone on the internet and Google search shirtless men? I've been doing that since I was like 11, maybe younger. Like what do you mean? So straight people are very vanilla, very much vanilla ice cream. But I feel like when you're queer, you're automatically a bit like spicier, like a bit more going on in bed. Maybe not lesbians, they just like cuddle for hours on end and like move in together after like 2 weeks of dating. At least that's how the stereotypes go. But I would want something more exciting, more adventurous, more role play, more things like that. Can't believe I'm putting this out on the internet. Well, actually, I can't believe it because there's even more I'm not saying. A lot more that I'm not saying. Y'all wish you knew. Y'all wish you could be a fly in the wall Miley Cyrus style, but you can't. So, these glasses are a little big. That's why I'm constantly adjusting them. I'm getting a contact lens exam on Monday, and I'm finally going to get fucking contacts. Yes! For the first time in my life, because apparently Medicaid won't pay for it. I double-checked that. They transferred me to the company that they partner with to do the vision insurance. Apparently, the first customer service rep for Medicaid got it wrong. They do not cover contacts. They only cover contact if it's medically necessary. And I do not have like vision cancer or cataracts or anything like that. So unfortunately, I will not get my contacts paid for. But I'm just going to pay for it out of pocket. It's not too expensive. Little Christmas gift to myself. I said I was minding my finances, but that's okay. I don't care. I want contact. This really is mostly an update episode. That's okay. I'm good with that. So with the last 20 minutes we have of this, I will be taking a drink of water. I'm never going to cut this section out because it's a reminder to stay hydrated. And I won't be muting the gulps either, even though I very much know how to do that on iMovie because I don't feel like it. Fun fact about my mother, she gulps so loudly. Fun fact about my brother, I hate the way he sneezes. I just hate the sound of it. It irks me for some reason. And my mom gulps really loudly. So those are some character traits of my family, in case you were wondering. So expectations for being in my 20s. Let's, as like a 5-episode recap, maybe this would be a good like a good like benchmark point. Let's take it back to the beginning. Someone in my 20s. What was I expecting? I don't know. For college, I was certainly expecting the friendships, which I did get, and then COVID ruined it, blah, blah, blah. We don't want to hear my sob story about COVID. But now I'm post-college, and I don't want to go back to college. The idea of being on a college campus makes me like angry. Like I don't want to do it. When I visited my mom, I brought my college zip up sweater because it's just what I usually wear. Now I've switched to this one, which I've had for like 6 years. I am a sustainable queen. But we went to this one like seller event and like not a flea market. We just went, people were selling shit. And someone was like, oh, you went to college there? And we had like a small conversation about, I think I mentioned this in the last episode, of like, that was another wake-up call of how depressed I was. Because I basically just said to the guy, yeah, I got fired and I was really like sad about it, whatever. But I was like, I can never wear this sweater again. I don't want to be associated with this. I don't want anyone to think of me in this way or relate me to this institution. Like, I'm over it. I'm so over it. So in my past 20s or in my further out 20s, in my post-college 20s, I think like we see on the media of like the friendships and like hanging out with your friends all the time. I think Sex and the City and Friends and How I Met Your Mother, like these like classic sitcoms are very like notorious for this of like, how are these friends constantly hanging out? Like before work, after work, on the weekends, they're never working. They're just at the coffee house or the bar or the diner. Like, that's just not possible. I remember one girl, she said on TikTok, I think it was just one of the comments where she was like, the trick is never sit down. Like if you get home on a Friday night after work, don't sit down, just immediately go out afterwards, and that way you don't lose your energy. But I honestly think that's really sad. And even if I did have friends, like would I be able to hang out with them more if I'm working a full-time job? Like I feel like high school was great, and I had a really great friend group in high school because we were in school together. So we would have classes together, we would have like lunch together, and then that was like core time built into the schedule that we were hanging out and like forming bonds and relationships. And then like because school wasn't as long as a full-time job, you could like hang out after school and like feel fine or whatever, even though I was still tired and I still did not like being out late. And it was only like after high school, like the summer after my senior year, where I was more okay with being out late. But even then, not really. It was mainly just staying up late. I am not someone who likes to be out late. I don't know what it is. I am my mom. I think that's what I'm realizing. I am getting more of my mom's traits every single day. I don't like being out late, and neither does she. I want to be in bed by 9:30, watching YouTube, ruining my eyes, getting rid of all the melatonin my brain is actually producing, and taking a melatonin pill in order to fall asleep. That's what I want to be doing. So, yeah, I just saw like an Instagram reel where it was like, how are they hanging out? Like, if they're hanging out before work, they gotta wake up super fucking early. If they're hanging out after work, like, do they not have to like make dinner or something? Like, it's crazy. And if you have kids, forget about it. Oh my God, my mom earlier today, oh my God, she was like, well, it would be good to get a master's degree now when you're not married and you don't have kids, which first of all, me being married changes nothing. If I'm going to prioritize my education, I'm going to prioritize my education. Also, I'm never having kids. So I have my entire life to do whatever I want because I'm never having kids. So checkmate. Checkmate, bitch. I'm never having kids. Hell yeah. Hey, kids, bitch. Working at a daycare center did give me some appreciation for children, and I don't like hiss when I see them in public anymore, but never having kids. First of all, I'm gay. It's not biologically possible. I can't just have a really fun night and then 9 months later pops out a baby. Absolutely not. No. Have to adopt, which costs a lot of money and takes time, or get a surrogate, which costs even more money and takes also, well, could take even more time. I don't know. But no, not happening. Uninterested. Don't want it. I would like my life to be free. I would like to be child-free, not childless. Thank you very much. Hat to you. Good day to you. I will not be having children. So, other things, I did want to touch on the jobs because I do see like differing things of like what the Gen Z is thinking, and I'm only gauging this from like social media, which is not completely accurate. Lots of people are on it, but not everyone is on it, even not all of Gen Z. But I do see like some differing things. You definitely have people who are still on that hustle grind mindset, like those stupid fucking 20-year-olds in that one job I interviewed for. I don't know if I talked about this. I went to a job interview in like November just for the fun of it, just to like do something, get out of my house. I got a coupon in the mail for this one restaurant, so I went there after to use the coupon. So I was like, might as well just go out. And it was a sales job, and it was all bullshit. It wasn't a scam, but it definitely gave like fake vibes. It definitely gave that they were lying to me. But basically, it's like a middleman. So like the people you see in like Walmart, Kroger, Target, grocery stores trying to sell you AT&T or Spectrum internet, that would be the job. And I'm glad I looked at the reviews on Glassdoor of like what this job actually entailed. They were advertising the salary as like $40K. Absolutely not. The review said you only get paid like $10 an hour and you're just standing around in the store trying to make money. So you theoretically could get commission, but then you have to like accost people for that to try to get their attention and buy yourself. I don't understand why this exists and why people can't just like do it on their own or like go to the source and like go to an AT&T or a Spectrum or like these other services, the companies they partner with. They said they only work for Fortune 500 companies. First of all, I don't know what Fortune 500 means, so that's irrelevant to me. Also, I feel like that's kind of fake in the sense of like them trying to use that to like make it seem like they're really good and high up there, but like I don't think they are. But I basically said I was not interested in the position, and I left the interview, and it ended well. It was like whatever. He said like, "Are you still interested?" And I was like, "Nope." Because I said like, well, when you get out of the store, and he said he's become an assistant branch manager after 2.5 years. Bitch, that is a master's degree. That is so long to be stuck in a store assaulting people trying to get commission for sales. Oh my God, that made me mad. And these kids, I mean, at my previous job, when I was the youngest in the office by 14 years, that didn't feel great to me. And then my job before that, the coworkers were basically around my age. Like, I think I was the youngest by like a few months. Everyone else was like 23, 24, 25, 28. So that was really good. But these guys were like, they just gave me they were probably exactly my age, but they were wearing business professional. And like, you have to wear business professional just to do goal setting and the training. You have to wear a fucking suit for this bullshit sales job, which your only guaranteed income is $10 an hour, which is insane. So they just looked like kids playing dress up with their dad's clothes. And I was like, you can't be serious. Like, one of the guys who was observing the interview, he still had like teenage acne. So like, it was just weird to me. It was just, I just like, this is a sham. Their office space was bullshit. It was just not good. It was just not good. So no, there are people, and they also had typos on their website, on the bio page. Yes, I fucking noticed that they had typos. I would never be caught fucking dead having typos anywhere. And if there were a typo, I would like die of shame. I would never be caught fucking dead. Especially this Fortune 500 company having typos on their website. Serving Fortune 500 companies. They're not actually a Fortune 500 company. They just are the middleman for these Fortune 500 companies. Like, girl, what is going on? So, mainly I wanted to bring up Siren Core. If you don't know, because I will be explaining this to my dad, who will be watching this, Siren Core are these girls who are like romanticizing working in an office, which they're probably doing just to like try to get over the fact that they're working in an office and it sucks. This is contrast to the lazy girl jobs, who are girls who are trying to get just like whatever jobs they have to do the least work in and just make a living, which I respect a lot more. But and if you're wondering why I'm only bringing up girls, I don't see a lot of stuff for guys. I think because I generally don't see a lot of stuff for guys except for the hot guys that I get crushes on Instagram and want to have sex with. But I don't see a lot of stuff for guys, I think, because I don't really enjoy the presence of men. I much prefer the comedy of women. And I think it's also because women, it seems like women and girls on social media, like, are more open to being like, are more open to the idea of like humility and openness and honesty, as opposed to the guys who I think are just trying to put up this front of like the grind set, hustle culture, I'm perfect, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. That's just my like first impression of it. First impression, I've been on social media since I was like a sophomore in high school, but those are just my thoughts on it. But I think the Siren Core is just like, basically just like glasses and like wearing like a nicely cut, like skinny fitting like pantsuit, and like that's it. And I think that's kind of ridiculous. Just because like you don't have to be doing all that much for work. I think anyone who puts a full face of makeup on for work, or who puts so much appearance into their time for anything for work, is like kind of ridiculous. Because like, why are you going the extra mile when this is just a job that could fire you at any point, unless it says in your contract that you can't, and like they are just using you to make a profit, and that's the beginning and end of your relationship. Some people feel more confident when they're more done up and like more dressed up. Like, I would sometimes wear a button down, which was the extent of me dressing up, and really wasn't that much harder than putting just on a t-shirt. But I think it just goes into like trying to like romanticize like working, because it sucks. My dad told me like, I have realized all these things at 23 that he's realized like much later into his life. And honestly, it's because of social media and people sharing their stories of like why this sucks, or like hacks of like how to get a remote job, or like how to like do the most with your job. There is this one guy I did block because I'm sick of seeing his posts. Basically, I think his image is just trying to represent a very average lifestyle, being very content with it, of like, he goes to work, he comes home, he has a kid, and like that's kind of it. His reels are very like, they're average. Like, they're not very sparkling, spectacular. There's not much going on in his life. And I think he's trying to put off the narrative that he's okay with that, Some of the comments are praising him for it. Some of the comments are saying his life looks miserable. Something about his job, though, according to him, he gets a paid lunch hour. So I don't know if he only works like 35 hours a week or what's up with that. But that seems a lot better than an unpaid lunch break. So good for him for that. But like, there's just like, and like over time too, I'm just like rambling now, but like this job I just got, there are on-call hours and they didn't say I get paid for that. So, or like even comp time. So I'm just going to assume I don't get any of that. And that's because it's a salary position. And I think salary exempt positions are bullshit. I think when I was younger, or when we're all younger, we assume that like salary is the highest of highs and that hourly is much more blue collar and not as high end as a salary position. But I feel like the reality is that both of them have their ups and downs. And primarily the down of a salary position is that you could work overtime and not get paid for it. If you're hourly, that means in theory you are non-exempt and you get overtime, which is like potentially like time and a half and not just like your regular hourly rate. And then maybe you also in like these blue collar positions, maybe you're also in a union that like protects your hours and make sure you're not working like so much overtime, or if you are, you're getting a good amount of pay for that and like your benefits are good and things like that. But like salary exempt is just like, I feel like the excuse is like, oh, like just in case you have to work overtime, we don't have to pay you for that. And though as the worker, you just have to be okay with that. It's a scam. It really is a scam. If I ever ran a company, I would have people be salary non-exempt because I want them to have the guaranteed income, but have the guarantee of like if you do have overtime, which would be strongly discouraged in my company. But if you did have overtime, you'd get like time and a half for it at least, because why should anyone work overtime? Like I said in the last episode, why should anyone even work 40 hours a week? The 40-hour work week is obsolete, except for, again, the blue-collar workers, which if you have people like building railways or like shipping stuff or like truck driving or like these things that need to happen and need to happen around the clock, you're going to have people who are doing that around the clock. So the solution is maintain people's pay, but hire more people and then also pay them. So really the solution is for corporations just to give up some of their profits and give it to the lowest people on the ladder, but they're never going to do that unless we have like bring out back the guillotine and go all French on these fuckers and just slice their heads off. We're not going to do that. Kathy Griffin held up Trump's head, but that was just an art piece. That was not reality. Was that her name, Kathy Griffin? Yeah, that was her name. I think I just want to wrap up here. I really didn't talk about that much, even though it's literally been 56 minutes, so I don't know how I didn't talk about that much. I have a new intro. How did I not mention that? I redesigned like a title sequence and also with the same sounds. I like the sounds, but the title page, the imagery, and also the imagery for this podcast, the square format, that's all new. I think it's more artistic and maybe a better representation of what this podcast is about, even though there's no water. But now that I'm looking at my water bottle, I do drink water and I don't cut for that. So maybe there is like connection to the water theme I kind of have in that imagery. At the end of the day, it really was for the reflection aspect and like the parallels of like having the planes or the walls like going in and having that reflection. I was finally able to figure out a design for it from making it from scratch on Canva. I'm glad that worked out. But yeah, it's kind of been a little slow in my life. I'm visiting my dad this upcoming Friday, and I'll be with him for a couple weeks with my stepmom, and we have a few events planned, so that's good. For Christmas, I want him to buy me a haircut because this is getting kind of shaggy, and there's a new hairstyle I want to try out. If any of you know Connor from Power Rangers Dino Thunder, I want that hairstyle, which is basically just a middle part, but less mullet with the long on the back. I don't know if I can pull it off, but I mean, we'll see, whatever. Hair grows. Like the Sabrina the Teenage Witch episode when she went through the looking glass and she mistakenly told Jenny outside of the looking glass that she just wasn't listening when Jenny was asking if she should cut her hair off, if it was a good idea or not. And then in the looking glass world where it's bad, Sabrina sees that she did cut her hair and then she said like, but it's okay because hair grows. That's a reaction meme I use. I'm pretty sure I'm the only person who used that as a reaction meme, where it's her with her like shorter hair going like hair grows. I would use that for my friend Abby in high school. I did that a few times because I think she was considering cutting her hair, and I was like, well, this is what you're gonna look like, but it's okay because hair grows. I think that's what I want to leave this episode on. No matter how many times we cut our hair will keep growing. Unless you have a health condition in which your hair does not grow, in which case, then it doesn't keep growing. But that's not in my case. And with that, this has been episode 5 of the Parallel Stories podcast. Good night, everybody, or good morning, or good afternoon for whenever you're listening to this. Thank you for your viewership. Please like, subscribe, comment. I have gotten a few comments on some things, which is really nice. Check out my Instagram at RyanOFro, and you can also check out my personal Instagram, RyanOFrom. Check out my Fiverr if you want services from me for like copy editing, book formatting, writing, proofreading, things like that, editing. Yeah, check out all those things. And if you're my dad and you have any more questions about the trends and memes in Gen Z, then you will definitely call me about that because, a fun fact about my dad, I gave a quality trait to my brother or mom, and now I will give one to my dad. He rarely texts. If he has a question, he will call me. And I'm like, oh my God, here we go. Every time my phone goes off, I like get startled. I guess my ringtone is too loud. My ringtone is the Sabrina the Teenage Witch theme song when she went off to college. I really like that song. But yeah, he will call me for a very simple question instead of just texting me. That was a fun fact about him. Thank you for listening. Thank you and good night. And that's the way that the cookie crumbles. And this is what has been grinding my gears and other media references for sign outs. Thank you.